My name is Magnus Rosén, and I'm a bass player, and I played with HammerFall, I played with Julian Turner, Tony Martin, and many other nice bands. Right now, you are listening to Channa 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 podcast. Rock on!
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have a very special guest today, all the way from Sweden. We have Mr. Magnus Rosén. Hi Magnus.
Good morning. Good morning. For me, it's good morning. And for
Yes,
you, it's good afternoon.
yes. It's around 5 p.m. here now, yes.
Yeah.
So Magnus, how are you doing?
I just got up after a good nice sleep. So I got my coffee and I am here with you. So it's a very good morning.
Right. So Magnus, how is the situation in Sweden with all this, COVID and everything? How is it? How is it there?
It's actually quite okay. Our government decided to handle it in a little different way from the rest of the world.
Right.
I don't say we did it perfect because we didn't, and it's a lot of questions we people need to ask, I think. But in Sweden, it's a little bit more open, like
Right.
in the rest of the world. So we can do, for me, I can make small concert for 50 people. Example, if it's 51 people, you got the trouble. But if it's 50 people in the public, it's okay.
Right.
It's many questions, of course. If you go to a restaurant in Sweden, it can be 200 or 250 people. But if you bring up an instrument, it can only be 50 people.
Right.
And this kind of strange behavior, it's hard to understand. But but it looks quite good. And when you look to um, the wave the corona have been and how many deaths it is, it's many people that say it's not more deaths and other times because every year people will die in virus. But
Right.
of course, I don't know. But it's many questions that need to be asked, I think.
Right. Because here I'm here in the Philippines, so we've been in a lockdown for like 7 months now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is really hard, and especially for musicians and for fans, music fans, because we haven't. My last show I went to was in March. I went to that was my last concert. I went. So after that, there's nothing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's really it's kind of get into your head also, because you're feeling that stress staying at home, and but at least we can do this type of talk with artists, and so that's a different way we can manage that situation. Magnus, so let me tell you how I discovered you, because I'm actually originally from Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
yes, so I remember getting this MP3 CD, which had Legacy of Kings, HammerFall, and then they had the Blind Guardian, they had Edguy, Rhapsody. There was an MP3 CD I discovered like in the late 90s, and that's how I got to know about HammerFall. And I think we have a mutual friend who is also from Sri Lanka, who is Chitral Somapala, right? So that's how I
Yes,
got connected with you. So how long you know Chitral?
it's actually for a long time. He's a very good friend. I like him a lot, and he's an excellent musician and singer. I met him first time for over 20 years ago
Wow.
when we toured with HammerFall, and he played with a band called Avalon.
Right.
And always when we got support bands in HammerFall, I always did my best so the support band should feel comfortable with us. And so because that, I also got in contact with Chitral. And I think both me, also him, felt very good in the situation. And also when you are friendly and try to help and invite and that kind of things. It was really, really nice. And from that day, we were friends, and it felt directly, if you know what I mean. You can feel relaxed and you feel comfortable. And so over 20 years ago,
Wow.
I met him.
So Magnus, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, and then how did you get into music?
Yes, I was, I can say I was born in the old part of Gothenburg. So it was old houses, and in these years it was very quiet and beautiful in Sweden. Now it changed.
Right.
I started to listen to music. My mother told me, example, when it was classical music on the radio, I stopped playing, playing with cars or things, you know what I mean, toys.
Right.
And every time it was classical music on the radio, I stopped and I was listen, and but of course nobody could expect or believe that I should go on with music. The first records I had was from the Purple. It was a single,
Right.
and Black Sabbath did a cover tune called Hush, and that was my first time I was listen to rock music. In these times, we also have these cassettes. Maybe somewhere in the world you still have it, but
Right.
the cassette. And the first song with rock music on that, I also remember, it was with Iron Man with Black Sabbath. So these two songs somehow was the start for me into the rock music scene. Even if I didn't start to play, it was my mind was open for that.
Yes, because Iron Man is a great song, right? Very feel dark, and it's very beautiful song, right?
Yeah. It really heavy, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, if you know what I mean. I had a small cassette player, and yeah, I remember it very well. It
Right.
was important, of course. I can see now. It was something that started.
Right. So when did you pick up the guitar? So did you start playing guitar, or did you and then you moved to bass, or you straightly got into bass? So how did that happen?
Let me tell you the story. When I was 14 years old, I got a magic box. And some people don't believe magic boxes, but people with open minds, they see life, it's more than we think. I got this box. It was of wood, and it had leather around. And when I opened the box, it smelled beautiful. It was wood and the leather. And fresh wood and leather smells really, really good. In this box, it was a round the world ticket. Can you believe you're 14 years old, you get a magic box with a round the world ticket?
Right.
That is true, this, of course. And it was only one clue to use these tickets. I needed to now know how it worked. So this day I could handle the ticket and I know how it worked. Then I was free to travel.
Right.
And it was also one more strange thing with this ticket. It was a ticket made of wood. And maybe now the listeners start to understand what the ticket was. It was, of course, something like this.
Right.
This day I could handle it. It should take me around the world. And one day I was quite okay with the bass playing, and then the door was open for the world and travel. And in these magic boxes, it can be a guitar, it can be drums, it can be, it doesn't matter what it is in the box. The magic thing is if people believing and feel love for something, and they are so strong so they can go with the beliefs of the thing in the box, then it's magic, I can see.
Right. So, so guitar, bass, what other instruments do you play?
I actually only play bass. When I was even younger, my dream was to play in bass instruments.
Right.
And of course, I don't know why, but I had that kind of wish. We start to play flute in the school, but to have a bigger flute with the bass tones, it costs too much. So I couldn't play that. Then I dreamed to play the bass tuba, you know, you know, this.
Right.
But it was also a really expensive instrument for a little kid,
Right.
and 10 years. And I got electric guitar, but it was no electric guitar in my magic box. You know what I mean? I didn't start to learn it. It was not interesting. But when I got the bass, there it was.
Right.
Nobody, anyway, me, I can't say why I would like to play the bass instrument. Of course, this time I was listening to Kiss, and I thought Gene Simmons was a cool figure.
Right.
And I couldn't say if he was good or bad. I could only say it was a very special character, and it also helped me to see the bass, if you know what I mean.
Right. Magnus, I see in your background those masks that you have in the background. What are those?
It's wood masks, and really in early ages when I traveled around the world, I actually got luck. Also visit the Philippines when I was 18 years old.
Right.
I traveled all over the world, also before I start to tour around the world. And I start to buy wood masks. And this is from Fiji.
Right.
This is from Africa. I have many masks. I have a couple of small houses here in the wood. And I have so many masks from around the world. And when I start to have 10 or 15, I understand I save in wood masks. I think it's beautiful, and it tells me of different cultures. It also tells me about my journey in life.
Right. Right. So, starting with your journey, I understand that very early you actually moved to LA, right? So, can you tell me a little bit about the life in Los Angeles?
Yes, I've been traveling around the world. at least one time before, yeah, or twice, one I think. And when I was home and I did a lot of different bands and that kind of things, I will also say when I was 17 and 18, it was the first time I was professional,
Right.
And play. So I really got this interest. And then when I was, I think 26, I played with a band called Queen of Hearts. It was not famous, and it was an American singer.
Right.
And they decided to move to LA with the band. And they asked me, do you like to go with us? It was not a famous band, so we couldn't make a lot of money. But I said, yes, it could be a pleasure.
Right.
So I went with them to Los Angeles, and to make a long story short, after 3 months, I really felt it was not my cup of tea, really. So I start to search other bands in Los Angeles, and first I find a really nice band called Midnight with a guitarist called Stuart Smith, and he played for a short while in the band Sweet.
Right.
And we played around in clubs in California, and we got got a sponsor from a big limousine company. So every time we went to our show, we had this extremely long limousine, and that was really fancy, I must say. And these times there, I also met a very, very nice and good drummer called Anders Johansson.
Right.
And this time he just quit, played with Yngwie Malmsteen, and for a short while he played with Blue Murder. We split an apartment, so it was Anders Johansson had one room, Jörg Fischer from Accept had one room, and another nice guy of mine called Christer Degerstedt, he had one room, and I had one room. So we had extremely nice times, and the feelings in this apartment was lovely. It was very nice guys, and everybody was so interested in music.
Right.
My old friend Mickey D, we played together when I was 17 or 18, 19, something like that. And it was before he joined King Diamond. Then he played with Dokken, then Motorhead, and now with Scorpions. Right. He lived there too. And the band Europe was there. So we were a very, very nice gang of people.
Right.
And
I mean,
yes.
Community, right? It's a community.
Yeah, it's a community. And these years I lived in California, it was like 2 years. It was like a dream, if you know what I mean. You met new friends, new culture, and the music was the center of everything.
So you probably experience a lot of these bands, because California is one of the, I mean, LA is one of the places where all the hair metal bands, glam metal bands came up, right? So what are the bands you remember that you seen there while in LA?
Yes, it was another Swedish band called Shotgun Messiahs, and they did some albums, and that was they were extremely good, I must say. I met the Scorpions there, even if they come from Germany, but it was Jörg Fischer's friends. So, and I really like Scorpions. It's I loved the music, and they were also very, very nice guys. And that's important, in my opinion. It needs to be nice people with a good heart, I think.
Right.
I had like some kind of manager that was looking for jobs for me, and I were very close to get an audition for Alice Cooper. I loved him and his music since I was very young, and it was very, very close. I could get this audition. So I was in the apartments and practice Alice Cooper songs, but he already decided for a bass player that was famous, and when he was waiting for the answer, they was checking other bass players, if you know what I mean. But this famous bass player, I can't remember his name, but he said yes for this gig. I also asked for audition for Dio. Example, I loved his music too. And later, maybe I'll tell this later, but later I toured with Dio with HammerFall, and that felt very good. So maybe the chance, if he was staying alive today, the feeling was it could be me that played with him, because the connection was fabulous, I must say. So, but I met many good musicians there
because
LA.
when you talk about power metal, you cannot talk about power metal without talking about Ronnie James Dio, right? Because he kind of defined that genre, right? So I know he's also a very good person as well. He's very kind person as well, right?
Very kind. We toured with him 6 weeks in United States, and of course I was out and take a walk with Jimmy Bain, and he was a bass player, and it was fun for me. And every time I met Dio, every time I met him, sometime every day in the hotel lobby or back in the backstage, he always said good words to me. You know what I mean? Like, and it was. I felt it was a connection. It was not only hi. It was. So if you know what I mean, I was very sad when he died. First of all, a nice human being, fantastic singer, and the dream to play with him was of course also gone in this. So.
Right. So you met Andreas, and then but how did the HammerFall happen? So how did you join HammerFall? How did that happen?
Yes. When I joined HammerFall was garage band, if you know what I mean. It was not famous at all. They did in maybe 2 or 3 small concerts before I joined. I mean, no records, nothing. And I had a friend, his name was Caroline Kratzke, and she were friends with this unfamous band HammerFall, and in the beginning HammerFall was a project with some people from In Flames, Joachim, Oscar first, and some other musicians, and they did like album, low cost album that was very, very good. It called Glory to the Brave. And before this album was released, like Jesper Strömblad from In Flames, nobody could understand this should be a big band. because you don't know that in the beginning, of course.
Right.
So he said, I have no time for this. I will go with my In Flames. And the other guys also went with their band. So they needed a solo guitar player, a drummer, and a bass player. So because this Caroline, I got in contact with Joachim and Oscar. And Joachim joined the project, you can almost say, 6 months before me. So now they were looking for a real lineup. So we met each other in a coffee shop, and I thought it was very nice guys, and they also play a demo, and I also liked the music. So we decided to play together. So the real story was they were asking me to join HammerFall. It's another story out there, but this is the truth, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And I also said, when they asked me to join the band, I said, let us play first and see if we like each other, if
Right.
it feels good. So after we did few rehearsals, I said, it feels good. I will join your band. This was 2 or 3 months before Glory to the Brave was released.
Right.
And when this album was released, a magic journey started that nobody could believe.
So when this album was released, so and then when you had like playing this album live, so you were the one who actually was doing it, right?
Of
Playing the bass
course,
or
of
live?
course. Of course. The first show we did, also on the release dates, it was me, a drummer called Stefan Reffling, and Patrick Reffling and Stefan Elmgreen. So this was the magic lineup. And 1 month after the release, we went to our first European tour.
Wow.
Who could imagine that? So that was something.
Right. So
And,
yeah, go ahead.
and for few years, I were wondering why we got this success. Because it's many good bands out there. And some bands with extremely good players, good performers. So I felt, okay, we have nice, easy music. It's easy to catch. And we also have an extremely good energy on the stage. And with a lot of luck, this was happened.
Right. So after that, you HammerFall released it's the second album, but it's probably considered as one of their best albums, right? Legacy of Kings, which is one of my
Yes.
favorites as well. So can you tell me a little bit about that album, like writing that songs, that album?
Yes. We toured around quite a lot the 2 first years. Then was time for Legacy of Kings. And in HammerFall, it was almost only 2 people who got a chance to write songs. So the album was written by Joachim and Oscar. And little bit later, Stefan was allowed to write 1 song on each album, an instrumental song. But in Legacy of Kings, we recorded in Gothenburg. It was like an old neighborhood close to our harbor. Right. And the guy who was the producer, he was also a friend from the schools when I went to the school when I was a little bit younger. Fredrik Nordström, and he also got prize from Japan to be one of the best metal producer. And it was a pleasure to record with him because he know what he's doing, and it's easy to feel comfortable to recording with him. With some producers, and I have that experience, it's not fun to record, it's not comfortable, it's not a nice journey. But if the producer is right, it's fantastic. And also the album have a very nice touch. So Legacy of Kings is also one of my really favorite HammerFall album.
Right. I think one of the songs that I really love from that album, I love all the songs of that album, but there's a couple of songs that really stand out. One is Let the Hammer Fall, which is like a song. And then there's a nice one, which is a slow song, which is more of a ballad, Remember Yesterday, which I really loved. I was even listening today when I was walking outside these HammerFall songs. What do you think about those songs?
I love it. Let the Hammer Fall, and that was a characteristic song for HammerFall, and we played it all the years I played with HammerFall. So for us, it was a big song, you can say. On this album, also the first album, in my opinion, even if it was good songs later too, but these two albums have the magic touch of HammerFall. This was really HammerFall. So example, Legs of Kings album, and also these songs, it have good punch in the sounds. The songs is really clear, and it still have the flavor of what I think the HammerFall sound, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So also the songs sort of gave a feeling, because you're talking about Legacy of Kings, you're talking about the past where things were glorious and everything was epic. So it gives that feeling when you're listening to that album. You get sort of medieval Europe, Knights of Templar, or that sort of all that feelings actually come to you when you're really listening it.
Yeah. It's have that storytelling feeling. I think like you.
Right. So, Magnus, can you tell me a little bit about how the touring with HammerFall? Where did you guys play? What are your memorable places to play with HammerFall? Did you play with other bands, maybe like with Blind Guardian or other bands? Did you ever played with those bands?
Yes, we played. You can say we played around the world, but it not means we played in all countries, of course. And we didn't play in Africa. It could be fantastic to play in South Africa and that, but we didn't. But we played around the world, in Japan, in South America. It was the first time I went to South America. It was with HammerFall, and we played, of course, in Canada and Mexico and United States, a whole Europe, and in Puerto Rico, we call it the Indian Ocean, but it's not, but we call it like that with Cuba and that. But so it was fantastic, because HammerFall was growing so fast. So when we come to certain countries, example, Bolivia in South America, when we were landing there, the fans was already at the airports, and in the old airports, they had this balcony. You can stay outside and see the plane landing, and it was packed with fans.
Right.
And when we walked down from the stairs from the airplane, people were screaming HammerFall and also our name. So when I come out, they were screaming Magnus, and I was waving. We all was waving to them, and I thought this was what I saw on TV when Rolling Stones or other bands did the tour. Now it was us, and it was fantastic feeling. And after we went through the pass control, the airport was packed of fans, and we didn't put our sunglasses on and try to be cool. We like to meet the fans, and they had the cameras, we had our cameras, so we took pictures of the fans, and so we really try to meet the fans, not try to be rock stars, but we was, if you know what I mean. But
right.
Without fans, no rock star at all. So you need to be thankful for all people who like you and like to see your concerts. So this was a fantastic experience. And anyway, if I talking for myself, I was always, it was important for me to if someone asks for an autograph or a picture, you shall have that. I always took time for that. And I know sometimes when I read on internet today, people remember that. So I was very happy that I was a human being, and I never tried to be a big head or the nose in the air. Right. Always took my time with a big pleasure, because I thought it was fun to meet people from other cultures and people who love the rock music. It was a pleasure, you know.
Right. Because it might be just a simple picture, but for the fans, it's a big experience. It's a memorable experience for them to meet you, right? Meeting the artist.
Yes, and it's also an experience for the musicians. Some musicians are more close. They close the door. But for me, it was fantastic to meet in Japan, meet the Japanese fans, or in South America, meet the fans there. And you know, everywhere where we played, even if the color was different and the hair was had different colors, but you could recognize a rock people everywhere, because we all look the same, and
right.
We have the same love for music. So
right. So Magnus, during your tour, who did you share the stage with? What other bands that you remember?
Yes, we did a tour with Dream Evil. They are from Gothenburg. We did tour with Firewing. There I, for the second time, I toured with Chitral. So that was, of course, extra fun that he were on the tour again.
Right.
And we played with Stratovarius. And of course, like I said before, we played with Dio, King Sex, Death, and of course, many bands. And example, when we played in the festivals, then you played with also the real big bands,
right.
like the Purple, Dream Theater, Iron Maiden, etc., etc. So
Right.
I
So,
met many nice guys
right.
and
So
girls.
one of the other albums I also remember from HammerFall is Crimson Thunder, right? So what was like? You said that Legacy of Kings were more of the other guys actually written most of the songs. So what happened with the Crimson Thunder? Did you contribute as well?
Yes, it was also a very good album. Uh, uh, I think all the album was good actually. I must
Yes.
say,
Right.
but the two first one had the extra magic touch. But Crimson Thunder had very good songs, and there we get our big hit with Hearts on Fire.
Right.
That that really made us famous. This song, and then we start to make really big concerts. Like in my town, we played at the arena, and um, we start to get gold records, and um, I think we also got gold records with Renegade, but with the Crimson Thunder, we got the really big ones, the big success, I must say. And we also have a video, of course, from a live concert we did in our town.
Right.
Um, uh, it was a magic album, in you can say, because this was really open the big gates for us.
Right. Okay, how's the life like in your town, in your city? Because I mean, you're a big rock star. Everybody, you tour everywhere of the world. But when you come back home, how is it the life there? People still recognize you, or you're from HammerFall back in your town?
Yes, yes, I think so. In Swedish people is a little bit um, a little bit lay back in this case. If they recognize you, they don't like to show that they recognize you. Um, so they maybe show it if you have the back on them. So uh, if I went to another country, people can come to me and ask, "Is you Magnus Rosén?" But in Sweden, that not really happen. But if I'm out and make like smaller concert or performance, then of course people talking about it. Then they come to me and say blah 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 HammerFall, and
Right.
this kind of. So but after HammerFall, when I play with other bands around the world, people in Japan or United States or South America or Mexico, some rockers, they could come to me on the streets and say, are you Magnus? So I think we did a big impact. And like a bass player, I also believe that even if you are a bass player, you shall not stay in the shadow.
Hmm.
You're gonna rock hard like everybody else, and I did that. And maybe because that people still recognize me, because I rocked hard, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So
Right.
I got the character for the fans, I think. So
Yeah. So one thing I sort of realized with the HammerFall songs is that you had like sections that it was more bass, and then there were sections a lot of back vocals. The vocalist sings, but then there's a section that it's all about backing vocals, right? There's a background vocals, and then you had a section. I don't see like a lot of guitar solos, and although it's there, but you had sections where it's more of bass also, right? So is that how that structuring of this you know how is that happen with that structuring of songs?
okay. Uh, uh, in the Crimson Thunder World Tour, I had then I had my bass solo. I didn't have my bass solo on all the tours,
Right.
but on this world tour, I had the bass solo. And that was, of course, really fun for me because I love that kind of things. And so, of course, that got a bigger impact for the bass because I have the solo. Also, because I was a quite strong character on the stage because, like I said, I rock hard and I love to perform, and people can feel that. If you love something, people feel it.
Right.
If you do it because it's like an actor, then it not have a magic impact. And because I took my place on the stage, the feeling could also be that the bass was more important.
Right.
If you know what I mean. So the
Right.
bass solo, and because I was rocking, and that was important for our show, I think. Then maybe the feeling was the bass had was bigger than it was, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. So Magnus, you were with HammerFall for nearly
10 years.
a decade, right? 10 years, right? So, can you tell me why you decided to leave?
That is an interesting question, and many people have asked me this.
Right.
and I decide by myself to not tell the whole story for the public because I think it's not nice to talking things in a band that not work like it should work. And I don't like to be that kind of person that they're talking bad about other things. The only thing I will say is it's of course a reason why I left the band. It's a reason why Stefan Elmgren left the band. It's a reason why Anders Johansson left the band. Of course, it's a reason, but I don't like to be a person that talking about that.
Right. Right.
So it was time for me after 10 years and see if my wing could fly me somewhere else.
Right. Which it did, right? You got a lot of good success after that anyway. Magnus, I want to ask you, I saw you in your website, you mentioned about meditation. Do you do meditation in your daily life?
Not every day. I'm really I played in quite many meditations, and I did a few meditations albums with the bass.
Right.
And I think meditation it should be a good part of every human's life, so you can connect yourself and go inside, not only from inside and out, also go from outside and in.
Right.
And start to think also about the life, because life is a miracle. It's how more you're thinking about that how more bigger you think it is. Only one mind is when you before you be born, and when you grow in a woman's stomach, all the small cells, that is billions of cells. This little cell know it will build an eye.
Right.
And billion more cells, they know they're going to build an eye. These cells, they know they're going to start to build a finger. And these cells know they will start to build a heart, and then you go on. And then you see, how is it possible? It's a map somewhere. If it's no map, it can't be a human being or an animal or a tree. It's magic. And I think when you meditate and start to concentrate a little bit about your inside, if you get luck, you will also start to grow inside with a nice spiritual feelings. And if you have luck, you can grow your whole life, and you open your mind more and more. Many people like to see everything like this because it's comfortable. But I think it's comfortable to understand I know almost nothing, but maybe a little thing here and a little thing there. And if I have an open mind, if you tell me something, I will listen.
Right.
If I am like this, then I think I have all the answers, and I put my finger in my ear. But that is not me. So meditations, it's a wonderful thing, and I will try to do this more with my playing.
Right. Right. I think one important thing you said about people are just only thinking about their world. They're not opening up. I think that's one of the big problems we have in the world right now, right? Especially with the social media, everybody's like just only on their opinion, only on their idea. They're not opening up to anybody, right?
That's, I think, exactly like you. It's dangerous.
Right.
So we should talk more about this, um, more about the inside, more about open mind, and not believe everything in media, because media have been politics, and that's really scary. Because when I was young and I was reading a newspaper, I thought this was the truth. Today, this newspaper is left, this newspaper is right, and it's with different glasses on. They talking about the situation and the world.
Right.
And it should be in all countries in the world. It should be a committee, a true committee. They correct everything that is false or a perspective. It should be somewhere in the society. It should be a committee that says, this is the truth. You can believe whatever you want, but this is the truth.
Right.
If you go left, if you have to go right, it's your opinion, but this is the truth. We need that, because nobody knows what the truth is.
Yes. So after you left HammerFall, you played in a lot of other bands. One band that I want to talk about is you played with Tony Martin's Headless Cross, right?
Yes.
So can you tell me about that tour? Because I think you have one show that you did in UK or as well, right? You performed in UK. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. First of all, Tony Martin is a great guy with a good heart and fantastic voice. And I met him without knowing it in a cafe shop in Gothenburg. And I didn't know it was Tony Martin. And he was visit a girl that is a musician. She have a band called Arrival, and they were friends. So Tony fly to Sweden. They had a coffee at the coffee shop, and I come in the coffee shop without knowing they were there. And I said hello to Vicky. She's my friend. And there was a guy too, and his name was Tony Martin. And I said, hello, how are you? And we talked a little, and it was nice and comfortable, but that's it. Of some funny reasons, maybe 3 or 4 months later, I was in the same coffee shop. Of some reason, I didn't go there every time. It was, I don't know why, but I went there. This time, Vicky and Tony Martin was there too for the second time. And
Right.
that's different. How could this happen? And then, hello, are you here again? And blah, 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 you know. Then we changed numbers. And then I understand it was the former singer from Black Sabbath. And we felt very comfortable with each other, so we hold the contact. And then Tony Martin asked me, we're going to do a show in Birmingham with Tony Martin's Headless Cross. Right. Do you want to join? And I said, of course, it should be a pleasure. So then we played this show also with Jeff Nichols from Black Sabbath. It was the keyboard player, and many people don't know that Black Sabbath had a keyboard player. Right. But they had. And Jeff Nichols was always playing behind the curtain. And why he played there, you need to ask Tony Iommi. But they had a keyboard player for 25 years. Wow. And he were also very, very nice human being. So this band was beautiful. Then he died, sadly. And we sometime when I had some shows in Sweden, I invite Tony. So he were flying to Sweden and play with us for 1 or 2 songs or something like that. So we had the contact, and he joined some of my solo albums. And now last spring, maybe, he started working on his new album. Right. And then he asked me, Magnus, do you like to play a song with me? Of course, please send me the song. And after I recorded, he asked me, do you want to play 1 more songs? Yes, of course. So I did that. And then he asked me if I like to tour next year with him. And I said, of course, I would love to. So I still, like you hear, play with Tony Martin, and I will play with him live, and I'm joining his band. So I'm very thankful for that, because he's a great singer and a great human being.
Right. Magnus, it seems like that all these great experiences with all these bands is because of your sort of your attitude, that you're open to these things, right? Open to take these opportunities, open to take these chances, right? So it seems like that's all these things are happening because of your attitude, right?
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I think the attitude is most important. And like we're not maybe going to talk here today, I did concerts with the symphonic orchestra. I did like solo bass, ballet. Even the Princess of Sweden was there and were looking and took my hand. And I did so many things that I couldn't imagine of. And it's of course that I love music. I love all kind of music. And I know if I play with the symphonic orchestra, of course, I take a chance, because I am a rock musician. I'm not a classical school musician. So I take chances, but I also always try to do my best, and I'm serious about what I'm doing. And so far, it worked very well.
Right. So Magnus, can you tell me a little bit about your solo work? So how many albums have you put out? When did you started your first solo album?
Yes. To make a long story short, the first album was out 2000. It called Imagine a Place. And this my solo albums, it's different, and in some ears seems like strange, but this is a print of what's going on inside me, with all the music that's flowing left and right. And the most of the album is instrumental, not all, but the most of them. I did 9 solo albums. I'm working now on solo album number 10. Wow. And this have a name called The World and Times. And it's like a point on what's going on now. Everything's changed fast, and life is the world, and it's with the time. Right. That's our history and future. So in this case, I record everything. Everything is done. So we make a mixing in Brazil with the guys, Fabio Bulitivas from the drummer for Shadow Side. He produced these albums. Right. And I had musicians from ABBA, if you know the band ABBA from Sweden. Yeah. Right. Musicians from ABBA, musicians from Black Sabbath, of course, Tony Martin. I have musicians from Secret Service that played for many years. I don't know which country they are big in, but I know for sure they were really big in Sweden, but also in Russia. I got the musicians from Silver Mountain, the band that Anders Johansson and Jens Johansson played in before Yngwie Malmsteen. I had very nice musicians in there, and that is like it's like a map of colors from my life. It's right. From polka to folk music to some covers from the 60s to rock music, hard rock music, to modern funk music. So this will be an album that is completely different from all other albums you can listen to. So right. This is a journey and a print of me, like a personally, from a personally musician that do left and right music.
Right. I saw in your website, I really love your website because you're keeping track of all your appearances, where you performed and everything, right? So your website is very detailed, lot of history there. What I was really fascinated about is the solo touring you did, because you played in a lot of different countries, like even in Sri Lanka you were there, even Bangladesh, you played in different consulates and all this. Can you tell me a little bit about that solo touring?
Yes, that is a big chance I got to play all over. In Bangladesh example, that is so interesting. I am an ambassador for a company called Göteborg, and they working with jute, the material jute, but they build high-tech jute. So from these flowers, you can say, you can actually build part to cars, part to boats. You can build so many great things. It's like a bioplast. It's not plast, it's like a bioplast. It works like plastic, but it's good for the nature. So if you throw these things in the nature, it will not stay there forever. It right. will get into the ground and disappear. So this is the future for a healthy world. And because I'm an ambassador, no other companies have a rock musicians like ambassador, I think. This open other people's eyes. So right. When we come to Bangladesh, I played my bass performance at the factories for all the poor workers. I also played my bass solo things like an ambassador in the consulate, in the ambassades, for the people in the governments. And we got so big exposed because this. So I think we got 100 million TV viewers in Bangladesh.
Wow.
High-tech youth for a sustainable future with a rock bass player. It's a beautiful combination.
Right, it's good.
So I went there 4 times in Bangladesh, and I'm sure I will be back. And I love this country and all the people. I love all the countries because it's so nice people all over the world.
Right.
Of course, you have the evil people too, but every country have nice people here and there. And I went to Sri Lanka a few times. One time with Göteborg and one time with Chitral Somapala. And with Chitral Somapala, we played on rock meets reggae, and that says so much. It's a festival with reggae music and rock music. And in the West, people can't really imagine that. But music is music and people is people. And if you love music, you don't hate someone because the people like another style of music.
Right.
So this combination is beautiful. And I think it's good also there to have an open mind. You can love the rock music, but it's also other music styles that is lovely. So I played in a place called Svalbard. It's so north that they don't have humans there from the beginning. So the humans were traveling there to make mine few hundred years ago, and there is more ice bears than human beings, and it's almost in the North Pole. I went to play in a blues festival in Nepal, Himalaya Blues Festival. Fantastic. And and China many times. I played maybe 12 times in China, and last time I played in a really big TV show there. It was few days before the corona went out in the world.
Right.
So I was in China when everything started with this COVID-19. And I can say only short, my experience was that China did all that they could to stop the virus. So some Western newspaper, it's too political, you know what I mean? But the truth was, when we should get out from China, they really did health controls. We did get through few health controls to be allowed to leave China. It means they didn't did what they could to stop this. But the West propaganda, I be so tired sometimes about all this propaganda that is not the truth. And because that, I think we should have a true society, a true organizations in every country that tell the people the truth. Then you decide if you want to go left or right.
Right. Magnus, one more thing I really love about you is you're a member of Rotary Club, right? You spend a lot of time with Rotary Club and a lot of good charity and lot of good work. Can you tell me when did you first join Rotary Club? What are the projects you've been involved with Rotary Club?
Yes. I 10 years ago almost, I will say first, I did few charity tours in South America. And when I should do my third charity tours, I quit HammerFall before, and because I paid for all my charity tours by myself, the air tickets, the hotel, everything. It was for my pocket. But when I stopped to play in HammerFall, I also stopped making money. So I asked Rotary, would you like to do this charity tour with me and help me with the air ticket and the hotels and that? And they said, yes, we will. And then they also asked me, Magnus, why don't you join Rotary now when we're going to do this together? Right. So I said, yes, it could be interesting to meet and other kind of people that I never met when I play my rock music. So I joined Rotary. I went to South America with the sign of Rotary, and I did my concert by myself, solo bass concert. And to get into my concert, it cost 2 kilos of food. So the people who come to the concert, they have a bag with food, leave the food, get the ticket, and I played for maybe 1.5 hours, talking with the public. Then I contact like Rotary in the different towns and the different countries, and I follow them out to the favelas, to the ghettos, to the poor people, and deliver the food. And when I stayed, example, in Peru, in Lima, straight into these favelas that the poorest people was, and when I were looking at the eyes of the people, I understand it could be me who had bad luck to be born in a situation with so little hope for the future. So they were, of course, the same like me or us. People forget that. They think poor people is poor people. No, poor people is people like you and me. And this experience I took back to Sweden, and I went out to the schools, and I still go out to the schools and make lectures sometimes. And then I talking about this. So this was a big experience for me. So I did a lot of charity things in my life for sick people, for poor people, for sick kids, for a better world, all this. And I don't do that because I am so good. I do it because it's my pleasure.
Right.
That is what I believe
in. It's really amazing to listen to all these things, Magnus. It's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. So Magnus, what's your message to the viewers of this podcast?
My message is, of course, from my heart, that believe yourself, and love is the strongest thing. If you go into a dark room, if you hold the light in your hand, the room will be full of light and the darkness will disappear. Love is always light. What is really evil and what is the good thing, sometimes it's hard to understand, because it's a lot of bands, like they say they are a little bit evil, but I believe they like to stand up and tell the world, we have a voice, we believe something. And for me, that is not the evil thing. The evil thing in this world is some of the politicians, some of the big companies that not care about human beings, and they don't care about the world, the nature, and all this. Right. So light in your hand and fight for a good future.
Right. Magnus, I'm so glad that I talked to you and was able to make this happen, and really inspiring, about talking about HammerFall and, your experience of touring and all that, plus you talk about meditation, you talk about charity and all this work that you do, in amazing work you do. So it's, thank you for joining this podcast. I really, I want to thank you for joining this podcast. Keep inspiring, keep making music, keep doing what you're doing. And I really thank you from bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus.